Okay, hi guys. It's been a while since I've done one of these, I know, and I'm sorry about that, but racing happened. But I thought I'd get down to tyre truing, seeing as I've got some tyres to true tonight. Here I've got my sort of little toolkit here, most important one being right up there. But getting to this bit, so we've got the tyre truer. Now we've got an automatic one, which is not as expensive as the Huddy one, but is still reasonably expensive. But for a long time we managed with the Fast Tracks manual truer, which is about 80 quid I think, brand new. That's perfectly adequate. It does just as good a job. The cutter isn't motorised on that one, so you have to sit there and crank a handle, which yeah, it can get a bit old if you've got lots of tyres to do, or if you need to do it in between doing other things. It can be useful to have the electric one. I've got my sort of accoutrements here. We've got the sanding paddle, which is basically a bit of sandpaper on a stick that would do just as good a job, but we've got this snazzy metal one. The 1.5mm driver, which is needed to, there's some clamping screws just in there that hold this slider in place while you're truing. That's needed for that. We've got the brush for cleaning stuff off, the vernier calipers. I use a manual one, but the digital ones are easier to read. I just find they kept running out of batteries and it annoys me, so always when you needed it. And lastly, these things, which I call spiders, but other people call inserts and center inserts and random things. But basically they're little bits that fill the hole in a rear tyre, because that centre hole is bigger than the front tyre, and it just means that everything's centred on the arbor properly and it's a bit easier to do. So that's basically the setup. Oh, apart from inside here, we do have a CRC final cut, I think it's called, bit, which is quite expensive. It, in fact, compared to the little tiny hacksaw blade style ones that you normally get with truers, it's fabulously expensive, but it is worth every penny. That one's been going, I think, 2 years now. It's done loads and loads and loads of tyres, and it's not needed sharpening or replacing, and it does a good enough finish that you only need to cut once, and you can take a lot of material off at one go if you need to, and it doesn't really bat an eyelid at that, so it's really, really good. Worth its weight in gold, if you ask me. But, so what I thought I'd do is just go through my sort of procedure when I come back from a race meeting and I want to prep for the next one. Because when you come back from a race meeting, all of your tyres, including all the rear ones, are different sizes. So I sort of balance the having the maximum life of the tyre and making my life easier by having them similar sizes, by sort of using this procedure. And it just means that I'm not constantly chasing ride height and forgetting things at a race side, because all my tyres are the same size, so I know once they've set the ride height to be what I want it to be, I can put another set of tyres on to go out for the next run and it's the same. I will always check it, but it's nice to know that it'll be roughly the same, and I'm not going to have to worry about changing rollout and changing ride height and all of these things while I'm at the racetrack. So what I do is, basically I tree them all to the size of the smallest one. So what I do is I will go through one at a time, and I will measure the size of the tyre, and I will sort of keep a note of what size it is. So this one's 41.5. And I will go through all of the rear tyres one at a time, going, okay, that one's bigger, that one's much bigger, that one's about the same, that one's about the same, or in fact, but as I know, the one on the truer is slightly smaller, it's about 41.2. So then I'll keep a note of that 41.2 in my head of the smallest rear tyre, and then I'll go through the fronts. Now, because I know that I want a stagger of 2mm, I can measure the front, and I go through, and again, that one's bigger, that one's about the same, that one's about the same. Yeah, so the smallest front tyre is, what's that, 40 point, probably 39.85, something like that. But as a result, because the smallest rear tyre was 41.2 and I wanted 2mm stagger, that I need my fronts to be 39.2. So all of my fronts are bigger than that, so I don't. So it's the rear tyre that's going to dictate what I true them to. Yes, it does mean that I waste a little bit of rubber, but it's worth it just to stop myself going insane, frankly. So how I do this is I mount the smallest tyre up to the truer, and I move the arm out, so it's passed, lock it in place. I move the arm so that it's over, well, in case of rears, the centre of the tyre. In the case of fronts, I would do it to whichever side was biggest, because the fronts tend to wear in a cone fashion, so one side will be slightly smaller than the other. It's worth watching for. So I move it over the middle like that. I'll start the truer up, and then what I'll do, I will loosen this off and gently slide this in until I hear it just bite on the tyre, and you should hear it. Okay, so once I've got it to that, I will just literally move it over. I'll just give it a skim off, which isn't really taking any rubber off. Mostly it's just taking the dust off for this tyre. If you turn the speed up, it runs across just gently. In this case, I just need to adjust my end point. So it runs across the whole tyre. Could probably do with being even further than that, actually. Okay, so that's that one trued. So then I'll take that off and I will true all of the other rear tyres to that same size, and it will take more or less material off of each one depending on what size they are. And we do that. And then once I've done all of the rears, I will adjust the truer to 2mm further in. Probably slightly less than that to start with. True the front tyre, measure it, make sure it's what the diameter I expect it to be, and then I'll true all the fronts to that. And then they go in the box and they're ready for the next meeting. So yeah, that's basically it. The only other thing I do, and these tyres are not the best example of that, is I check for peeling and any sort of chunks starting to form, and what that is, let's wait for that to finish. So what happens is the edge of the tyre starts to peel back, and when you run it back, you can, in fact you can see it just here. If I bring that close and close, you see how it's peeling. So this tyre's pretty nibbled anyway, but that will develop into a chunk later. So what I will do is take a little bit of super glue and just put it underneath. So I'll just get it underneath that. Sorry, I'll just get that underneath that and then glue it back down, and then it's ready to go for the next time. and I'll normally do that before truing, but in this case I know that these are pretty good. So anyway, that's that. Hope that helps. It does mean wasting a little bit of rubber, but I find it's worth wasting the little bit of rubber. I mean, you're talking about 0.1 of a mil probably by the time you've been through this, just to stop yourself going insane on trackside trying to get the thing set up. Anyway, thanks a lot guys, bye.